What's up everyone, it's Justus West and I'm here with my friends from Guitar Center to check out the new Soldano ASTRO-20. The ASTRO-20 is a 3-channel tube amp with 4 galaxies of sound built right here in the USA. To my left here is the head version and to my right is the combo. In addition to the great tones that this amp can produce, it also possesses modern features that any guitar player would really appreciate in today's technology age. This amp features a transparent effects loop, a direct headphone out, and another direct out that allows you to choose through 6 different onboard IRs, which are perfect for going direct to front of house or silent studio recording. If you want to dive deeper into IRs, it's great because you can connect it to your computer via USB, choose from additional IRs, or even add your own. That's incredible. And for those of us that gig, it comes with a 4-button foot switch that allows you to easily recall your favorite sounds. Before we get into how this amp sounds, I want to explain what the Galaxies are. Galaxies are basically modes that you can shuffle through that have increasing amounts of gain. Of course, you'll hear the difference as you change through the Galaxies, but you can also see the difference because there's a cool light that changes colors as you go through the different Galaxies. Green is only on the clean channel, but on your 2 Overdrive channels, you can shuffle between blue, purple, and red, all increasing in gain as you get to red. Right now we're in the clean channel, which utilizes the green galaxy, also shown here on the light. On the clean channel, you have the channel volume, you have a bright switch, which we'll get into later, and you also have a tone knob. In addition to that, you have a master volume knob and a presence knob. Alright, starting at the clean was a good place to start to show at the lowest amount of gain what kind of tone we can get out of it. I love how the guitar really sings, and even at a low volume, the amp is talking to the guitar, giving me great response. Spoiler alert, this amp gets into really high gain, so the fact that I can get a clean that's that transparent and nice out of it makes this a very versatile piece of machinery. Now I did play that progression with the bright switch off, so let's hear that progression with it on because there's actually 2 different modes and here are the differences. We're going to start off with the bright switch in the left position. Now just to refresh our memory, I'll play a little bit of that progression with it back in the off switch so you can hear what it sounds like. Last but not least, let's put the bright switch in the right position and hear the difference. In the off position, the tone was a little duller and darker, which is great for certain tracking scenarios. I personally preferred the switch in the left setting. This is because it musically rolled off the low mids and the low lows and gave me a little bit of bright boosting, which worked really well with this specific guitar. Now the right setting was also really amazing. It did an extra boost at the top end while rolling off that same low and low mids. This would be great for when you're working with an engineer because you can send them a signal that will be perfect for whatever mix you're tracking into. The versatility of that bright switch is amazing because you can really tune this amp to whatever guitar you're running through it and whatever your tracking or live needs are. Now that we've gone through the cleanest that the clean channel can be, I want to show what happens when you push the channel gain some. So for this progression, I've cranked the channel gain all the way up. I kept the tone, master, and presence where they previously were. I have to say, that might be one of my favorite tones I've made in this amp so far. Cranking that channel gain up gave so much saturation. It wasn't too distorted, it was still pretty clean, but at the same time it gave me just enough grit to really dig into playing. The amp is also very sensitive to input, so even on that final chord where I attacked it just less lightly than how I had been attacking before, you heard the amp clean up just a little bit more. Now that we've covered the clean channel of this amp using the green Galaxy, let's move over into the overdrive section of this amp. There's a few things to break down. In the overdrive section of the amp, you have individual gain controls and individual volume controls. Now what this means is you can dial in the perfect amount of gain for your overdrive tones, for your heavy distortion tones, and for your solo tones. These individual controls allow you to mix and match the Galaxies, getting the perfect tone every time. These two channels also have a shared EQ. We're going to start with the blue Galaxy, which is the lowest amount of gain out of the overdrive Galaxies. I wanted to start with a slightly gritty tone, so I kept the channel gain at 12 o'clock and also the channel volume at 12 o'clock. Let's hear what it sounds like. It's crazy knowing how high gain this amp can really get into, how we can really kind of build into it. That tone was pretty bluesy, kind of like a drive bluesy tone, which is why I chose a groove that sounded like that to really showcase how transparent that overdrive was while also still giving a good amount of gain bite. What's really cool is I didn't really have to change many settings. I mean, the EQ is set flat, and even with a guitar like this one, it just plugs right in and plays great. That's a true mark of a great amp. Now I want to show what the upper limits of the blue Galaxy can sound like. All right, I gotta say, the blue Galaxy with the gain cranked is chef's kiss. It really starts to venture into a hard rock space. Coming from a bluesy space, this shows a lot of versatility in this one Galaxy alone. If you put a drive pedal in front of that, you're gonna get some insane lead tones from the blue Galaxy. Now that we've covered the blue Galaxy, let's step it up a notch into the purple Galaxy. For this first progression, I'm going to set the gain back to 12, and then we're going to keep the volume at 12 o'clock as well. All right, let's talk differences between the blue Galaxy and the purple Galaxy. Obviously, there's a huge increase in gain. Now our gain is set at 12 o'clock, and I feel like it's almost where we left off with the blue Galaxy being maxed out on gain. So it really shows that we are going up a level as we change the Galaxy modes. Now let's see what happens when you crank the gain all the way up in the purple Galaxy. Now we're getting into the super exciting stuff. First off, I have to say it was so clear. Even though it's high gain and it's very, very, very thick, you can still hear every note I'm playing and the articulation is perfect. The low end is super tight but very punchy, and man, it just made that progression come to life. It's amazing when an amp and a tone can inspire you to create something that you wouldn't normally create. It's actually pretty crazy. I haven't touched any of the EQ knobs or the presence knob because the amp just sounds so good flat. But let's go ahead and mess with some of these knobs so you can start to hear the differences. Let's start with the presence knob. I'm gonna turn it all the way down and play that same progression. With the presence knob all the way down, we definitely lost some of that high-end activity, but still maintained a lot of that low-end power and punch. Now let's crank the presence knob all the way up. So it's interesting, when I boosted the presence knob all the way up, obviously all that high end came back, but I still think the amp did it in a very musical way. It didn't make the tone too brittle, but it definitely made it brighter, where you can really control how it sits in a mix depending on your creative needs. Now you may have noticed, as we were zooming in on the presence knob, that there's another little switch below there. The depth switch allows you to fine tune the power amp's bass response. This switch is super handy because when you have a guitar that needs a cut on the low end, or you have a guitar that needs a boost on the low end, you can really use the switch to dial in the sound you need. I'm gonna play through the same part, but switch through the 3 different settings so that you can hear the subtle differences that occur in the low end. So to reiterate, the depth switch becomes very useful when you're switching between a 6-string guitar, like my Bossy here, and a 7-string guitar like my Kaizen over there. The Kaizen might need a little tightening on the low end, while the Bossy might need a little boosting on the low end. To really showcase what this amp can do, I'm gonna switch over to my 7-string Kaizen so you can feel how much weight this amp really carries when you push it heavy. Now, if you're here searching for that legendary lead Soldano Overdrive tone, the red Galaxy is gonna be where you wanna hang out at. First, we're gonna start with the channel gain set to 12 o'clock and the channel volume set to 12 o'clock. Let's jump right in. So with that progression, I really wanted to show what the lead tone was capable of. I wanted to find lines in between the chords so that you can hear what a single line versus a chord would sound like with the same gain setting. With that being said, I feel like the amp does both amazing. As you could hear, the chords still had a lot of presence to them, but when I switched to lines, the gain still maintained, and the amp and the tone and the character of the amp still maintained as well. I really love that because whether I'm by myself or jamming with the band, it will be really easy to switch between rhythm and lead parts while even staying in the same channel and the same Galaxy mode. Now that we've heard the red Galaxy with the gain knob set at 12 o'clock, let's crank the gain all the way up and hear what it sounds like when the channel is pushed as hard as you can push it. That was just incredible. Even with the master pretty low, the amp is still alive. And that's great for me because obviously living in a space where you can't be super loud, but still want to get great tone out of the amp, well, this one is definitely the one. The tone was still heavy and still had tons of presence and just life. That's the only way I can really explain it. At low master volumes, when you still push the channel though, it just explodes. Since that last progression had more of a sustained chord movement, I want to show what happens when you introduce a more percussive part under the same amount of gain. We're also going to make a few EQ changes. For this progression, I set the channel gain to about 2 o'clock, kept the channel volume at about 12 o'clock, and then I also lowered the presence just a bit. I wanted to change the settings of the amp to really show off what happens when you play a more percussive part. That percussive part was inspired by Tosin Abasi, whose guitar is what I'm playing right now, actually. I just want to showcase the range of this amp. You can go from those classic bluesy rock tones all the way into heavy rhythm tones and even into the rhythmic metal tones. The versatility of this amp is pretty striking. I'm a player that loves many different styles and often can't find tools that can cover everything that I do, but this amp really gets into that range. Now to recap, what's really cool about this feature is you can connect the amp to your computer via USB and change which 6 IRs are present on the amp. And just as we saw a different color on the logo as we changed Galaxies, as I change to the IRs, you'll see a different planet light up each time. IRs are super useful when you're going straight to front of house or even when you're recording at home or at a studio. The great part about it is you can get all of the same great tones with no mics needed. So cut your master down, plug it in, and hear what the different IRs sound like. To showcase the 6 IRs that are already placed in the amp, I'm going to play the same part over and over and cycle through them so you can hear the differences. I have to say that those IRs are incredible. This is an amazing feature powered by modern tech that really makes guitar playing even more exciting. The second IR was my favorite because the high-end and low-end presence. The mids had a great amount of punch and saturation, and of course under that high gain, the clarity was perfect. The Astro-20 is a super usable and technology-forward amp. This is the perfect amp for the modern-day guitar player. Whether you're going from clean tones or heavy metal tones, this amp can cover all of the things. Plus, you have the IRs, which is perfect for silent recording and silent practicing. Headphone out so you can be right at home, just jamming away. For me, if I got this amp, I would live in the Purple Galaxy, no doubt. The Purple Galaxy has the perfect amount of gain for me to go heavy or light gain, but I like to keep the gain on. It was nice to have both guitars with me because it really helped to showcase what the amp was capable of in terms of using extended low-range instruments versus a standard 6-string guitar. With that being said, it handled all of the low end that the Kaizen presented while also creating a lot of presence and depth for the 6-string. All in all, this amp covers a lot of bases, is super loud for a 20-watter, and will have a special place in your amp collection. If you want to learn more about the Soldano ASTRO-20, go to guitarcenter.com, call one of their expert gear advisors, or just pop into your local GC.